Open source politics. Well, that doesn't sound stupid at all, does it? Oh, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Brilliant. As always, it's good to have developed a kind of hypercritical alter ego, if you have one. It's quite a good way to sort of follow the teachings of ancient Buddhism and such, particularly like the Pema Chodron. I don't know if you're familiar with Pema Chodron. She says, laugh at that little voice in your head of negativity. Well, I just give mine a little platform on the internet. Well, someone's got to hold you accountable for your madness and your sort of out of control political theories that don't make any sense at all. If I'm not here to point out how things as they are just wonderful, and actually trying to change things from how they are right now is just an act of total madness, then how on earth are you going to progress to teach people what the problems are and how to fix them? Yes, mate, exactly right. So can I cut to the chase now about this, because the audience, I'm amazed if anyone is still listening after your introduction. Right, very good, very funny. Off you go. Get on with it then, Mr. Politics, Mr. Rookie. You think you know how to do it all? On you go. So you may gather, we do have an older generation who are a little bit resistant to change and are determined to take our politics and control our lives and send us down certain paths that our ancestors have always gone down, and it's ended up with folly. I would like to try and take us on a new direction, okay? My politics consist of a whole spectrum of things. There's quite a lot of different campaigns, and I kind of weave them all together and call them a tapestry. A tapestry of politics, tapestry of ideas. Weave them all together to a fabric, and you've got yourself a nice, strong social fabric, okay? Now, this one here, this particular brand, we can look at all the other things, total health, liberty, my kind of climate change escape plan, all the various things that I want to try and put forward, whether that be the capitalist reformation, whether that be how to repair the gender warfare, men and women, and restore their liberty and such. I'm really trying to bring about world peace, lots and lots of things, amazing things. But the first thing we have to do is get elected. We have to get elected. Okay, none of it's all cuckoo nonsense unless you're going to win an election. So count on this being an explanation as to how I am going to win an election, and how you, the listener, if you are angry about politics, if you are sick to death of how things are, and if you come from anywhere round about the kind of standard middle of politics, where you believe in a mixture of an economy and a kind of reasonably law and order thinking, and plenty of abundant healthcare and good businesses and good safety net, good welfare state, kind of most things that most humans form pretty similar ideas throughout the world, believe it or not. There's not a huge amount of difference. Okay, there's just different ways of going about the same thing, and sometimes things are better than others. What we see all the time, though, in every country is a resistance to change and a party political system that's determined. Forgive me, I'm recording in downtown Leith, otherwise known as Edinburgh's Manhattan. Well, there's always something super important. I'm sure they're doing something super important and not just going to get someone with a social problem or a drug disorder or something like that and criminalize something that's just a human weakness. No, I'm sure they're not going to do that. Anyway, listen, open source politics, guys, open source politics. If you are as angry as I am, and I am probably the angriest hobbit in all of Hobbiton about how things are in the world right now, join me. Join this political bandwagon of mine. There is not going to be any party. This is not a party. You and I will never be in a party. You will never be responsible for anything I say or do, nor will I of you. Any bum pinching that you or I should do, we will never have to excuse. No failure on your part will I have to defend, and no failure on my part will you ever have to defend. You will be your own independent politician. And this is the way to do it, and this is the way to win. And I want people that want to win to get in touch with me on all my numbers and names and details and platforms, everything you've got. Just get in touch with me somehow and say, I want to be a candidate, and you will have a blank check of my time, support, energy, and resources to try and get these ideas of mine to change our society for the better and rescue us from potential World War III and potential climate change collapse, and near certain climate change collapse, how to survive that with your loved ones safe and well. Get into politics. It is time. This is the time. Now is the time. There is no time to wait and hang about or sit on the couch and shout and get angry at the TV. It's not going to work anymore. Get involved. Join me. Get in touch. All right? Now, here's a video explaining bit by bit some of the work that I did for open source politics. Subject to change. Some of it's a bit dated, but thanks for listening and thanks for watching. I'll generally let you know when I'm going to change the slides so that you can kind of scoot about and do useful things while you're listening to me rant and rave. You lucky devil. Okay, thanks for listening. Next slide. Is this a new thing? Legitimately so. I wonder. Probably. I think it might be. What I hope to do is to make the paper airplane flying assistance cool way to kind of represent the idea of open source politics. Put an idea, write it down on a bit of paper, and fling it out there. I love to think about how in this day and age, ideas can literally travel around the world at the speed of light. Right? Sometimes ideas we'd rather not travel around the world. Do so relentlessly. Good ideas or infectious ideas, they do travel. And I think that in any democracy in the world, this way of operating could be applicable in almost every democracy. So I've got this Epoch Nova constitution, a bit firmer since the last time I went over some of this work. So bear with me. This presentation really a pitch to those who are tempted to get into politics,
who wish they were getting into politics, who feel that they don't belong in any of the parties that are available, certainly just on the basis that that the whole party structure does not appeal, and they are in fact quite happy to run as an independent. However, they would like to, get a little bit of solidarity and a little bit of collegiate support, and a little bit of shared resources, but not in any way to act or function as a political party in the conventional sense, and thus avoid any of the sort of bad faith nonsense going on. But most importantly, just actually offer some good politics to the nation for a change. So if that sounds like you, old chap, you can maybe don't have to develop a Manchurian candidate alter ego, but you could do that. You could just come up with a little satirical character. We could do everything. There is absolutely everything about what this Iain Dunn chap here is doing is so unexceptional, so very, very average, so completely attainable, so absolutely within the reach of any even sub-average type of person. Do you get the idea? Open to all politics, right? So I'm happy to make errors and screw up and see what happens and run experiments and get on with it, and then see if others want to. And I love this phrase: pick up the ball and run with it. Okay. At the end of the day, I'm rubbish at all sports. I'm like humiliatingly bad at all sports. But the one I did have some fun with at school, this is a way, 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 way back in the childhood, was the old rugby. The old rugby. At the end of the day, whatever's going on, chaos and madness, and there's a panic, and just try and keep you cool, keep calm, and pick the ball up and run with it. And I mean, basically, I think the old American football is, but hopefully that'll end with the American audience and it'll be the same as me. Pick the ball up and run with it. Open source politics. It could be you. You could be an open source candidate. You could be an open source candidate. That really all it means. What does it mean? Well, let me tell you. Next slide.
Okay, so quick chat maybe about percentages in that, right? So what's the deal with percentages in that? Look, I'm trying to reflect upon the Brexit era and also just the complete cul-de-sac of gridlock of triangulation and nonsense that the kind of coin toss situations are presenting to us, right? In terms of policy, the country shifting and, in a schizophrenic way being pulled one way or t'other, or even just like going into something like Brexit with absurd parameters, no real clue about whether the country wants one thing or the other one. Just complete absolute horse manure politics, isn't it? There's nothing defensible to me about Brexit. The Brexit people don't even have a clear comprehension of what was happening, what has happened, cannot be honest, cannot be straightforward, have got hateful pathological tendencies. And that's all been funneled into a particular leaning to get the country over this 50% mark. And I think just like the whole approach of having politics where your goal is to convince 50.1% of the people, whatever it is, the first past the post arrangement needs to prevail within, I think, the MP situation, MSP situation. I'm kind of open to suggestions and all that. There isn't really anything in the Constitution, even that I've written, Epoch Nova one, that's kind of being too locked in and specific about that, because I wanted to have a kind of global potential appeal, a broad brush appeal. But it's just to kind of hammer in. I mean, this early document I prepared promoting the thing says 75%, right? You can see that at the time. This is what I was thinking. Now, in hindsight, I would be more inclined, given it a bit more thought, right? There are some scenarios with the constitutional believer, right, in terms of democratic absolutism. Let's say like a particular policy is hovering constantly around the 60s, between 60 and 65 for ages, right? I think that we ought to be able to put in place procedures among freelancers, right? So an independent like me is answerable to whom? The people who votes him and supports him. That's the case for this as well. You must not have a middleman. You must not have some party apparatus, any limited liability nonsense, really a brand other than your name on your ticket. To me, it's just unacceptable democracy. Who is in charge? Who are we voting for? The people are voting for what? The party or the person? And then if it's the party, which it always is at the moment, it's the way they've got it, they don't really have any liability at all. They're completely protected, So I'm begging the voters, and I would like the candidates who take up open source politics to join me. The primary core campaign, if you like, this cat in the box bit here, is to point out just how bad the rest of the political system is compared to what I'm putting forward and what any candidate putting forward on this similar platform wants to do. It's a way of getting us to a much more functional, stable democracy and system of government overall, just really being an end to chaos and an end to the madness, right? Where change takes a lot stronger support in the community. Do you know what I mean? To get it done. And then when it does happen, again, I'm reflecting largely on Brexit here, to the British audience and to the European audience and all these kind of fractional anti-European solidarity camps, right, which have broken out. It's a way of trying to take the poor peasant folk who are angry and raging and not very well informed and not very well educated, thanks to the abysmal education systems and such, and all very traumatized. They're all running for fascism. And fundamentally, the goal of Epoch Nova is to make sure they have something other than fascism to run to. It's essential that they have something other than fascism to run through. So the 75%, I'll maybe move this slide up to near the front of the doofer, just so that it saves a little bit of time for the reader. But this is a pitch for candidates, right? A pitch to the voters. All the same. We're all we're trying to get politics, healthy politics, over the line.
I'm thinking of a way to do it, and I think this is the way to do it. I need other candidates. It needs to be. I can only, run in one area and become one or two things. So be an MP and an MSP, so in parallel. But anyone running in a council election, anyone running in the kind of police commission side of things as well, even really if you think about it, any kind of federalized level of the United States, any kind of federalized level of any other nations that have a variety of different levels, Australia, Canada, wherever, but also for the European audience. Surely this will transform in a straightforward way. Do you know what I mean? To be like, look, they're a representative democracy here. This is a whole new bypassing of the corrupt middleman, which should ultimately eliminate most forms of classical corruption that we're dealing with. It's certainly the big ones that are leading us to war and fascism and all the rest of it. So Epoch Nova, the constitution I've written for myself, is entirely clonable, is a commons asset. People can just take that and write their own name into it and run with it. And so just you basically the main benefit from that. The reason that is better than selling a book or putting a movie out or something like that is that they actually run in politics. Just take all the things that other creatives have done over the years, Naomi Klein and Michael Moore and whoever it is, the Young Turks and people, whoever it might be, that particularly people who are doing anti-corruption work, anti-corruption. How do we see where most of the abuses of the human, most of the abuses of the environment, most of the abuses of our economy, the Squid Game type stuff is happening all the time. And so the angry, confused, and baffled and vulnerable working people who are genuinely spend most of their lives in trauma and instability are raging angry, and they're reaching for anyone who will represent them. So what I'm asking the candidate to do is try their best to represent the angry people who would be currently switching to fascism or extremisms of left or extremisms of feminism or extremisms of any kind of ism, communism, whatever it might be, all across the world, and try and restore us to some kind of moderacy where we understand that the factionalism and the division, like, how can I not achieve solidarity between injured and jilted fathers, right, and like people who have, like, trans people, let's say, right, who have got their liberties violated? Why can we not create solidarity between these groups? Because of insane division, right? Ridiculous campaigns of hatred and division and suffering and fear, scrambling. Hatred is a disease. Take that on board in your politics as best you can with this culture. It's a culture of compassion. It's a culture that's inspired by the Edinburgh Fringe. Have a laugh if you can. If you can have a laugh, then do it. Because you want an audience, right? You do want to get an audience. We're trying to win in politics. This is really about saying, look at how bad politics is. Look at how rubbish they are at their jobs, and look at the horrific outcomes. Could we have even slightly better outcomes with a raft of new people who are committed to core principles and will not sell out their voters to a third party, like a party or a corporation or whomever? That's not too much to ask, is it? I'd rather be conscripted into this, guys, right? Than the other conscription, right? We better be doing the pull-ups, lads, just in case, because I just don't know what's happening. But I try to think to myself, before the Rhineland, or before Pearl Harbor, or whatever, before Poland, before the last little shocking moment, was there a chance to topple the leaders? Was there a chance to get the villainous, cowardly dictators out once and for all, whether they dress themselves in red ties or blue ties or yellow ties? If they work for the corporation, if they work for a third party that's funded by a corporation, then they are not representing any of us. And it is the us I need to talk to. And among the us, there must be some people who just need a little bit of help. I will help you. You will have, if I can persuade candidates to pick up this brand, right, and take a handshake from me and run on this, you will have a blank check access to me, an absolute unlimited amount of my time and support to get over the line. Resources are, they're not nothing, but they've taken a big dent to get me this far. And I'm going to actually have to start canvassing for money at some point this year, no doubt. I think probably towards the end of next year. But it really doesn't take a lot of money. The point is, like, making time. Use your time. If you are maybe even retired or semi-retired, or maybe some upheaval in the workforce has caused horrendous damage to you, like some kind of fire rehire insanity has happened to you, some indignity, some violation. Maybe you're just a parent who just knows the future is absolutely forsaken for some reason at the moment. It seems like we're unable to steer towards anything other than the cliff edge or the nuclear explosion or dropping bombs on Chernobyl even after it's gone off in the 80s. It's not bad enough for kids like me to grow up in a nuclear radioactive Europe after that incident, but we have to grow up in potentially an even more radioactive and insanely toxic one because of further violations from the same shower of imbeciles, posh people, golden children. They have their golden gilded age now. And I'm just like, well, what have we learned, the rest of us? Well, we've learned that if we unite, they lose. We've learned that if we're divided, they win. Division. Epoch Nova, the new age of politics. It's like a cut-through disruptor in politics, okay? I want to make everything that the current politicians do fucking redundant, guys. Redundant, ridiculous, and absurd in the light of history. Look at what they did. They'd be like, these people just go to church and do what the Kirk tells them to do. And look, it's making them diseased and miserable and horrendous, and it's hurting their children, destroying their future. And we just laugh about that. Well, the aliens are here to watch this episode, I think, if they are here. I don't know. Look, don't ask me. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm terrified of them. I would hope not. Because xenomorphs are little grey dudes. Look, whatever. Something even worse. Are you mad? Well, hopefully they're here just to look at us the way we look at animals on safari and go, oh, look at them. What are they going to do now? Are they going to kill each other? They're going to wipe it. Maybe they've had to come in and intervene before. I just don't know. Because you're like, if we have a garden, the Gardner theory of the universe makes a lot of sense, right? And I'd be like, look, this this paradise that's here, this earthly, heavenly, greatest place in the known universe, it's on its knees, man. It's about to go pop. They've literally burnt it. They've literally cooked the damn thing. How could they do this, right? Wow, what have they done? Oh, look, they've all split into little factions. Look, these ones with this type of bits, they hate these people with this type of bits. These people, they all are 99.99999%, and yet they're absolutely at war all the time. Trying to their most pathological ones, they put them up on little thrones and give them little golden toilets to sit on. They'll let them get hundreds of millions and zillions and zillions and unlimited amount of money in debt and still talk about them like they're a good business person. And not only just not add any value to their society, they're consuming the society like a cannibal. You know what I mean? This is like the aliens would come and see, what on earth is going on here with these nutters? Look, I digress. Come on. Politics, I think, is an open market for the disruptor right now, okay? Hence me, I'm doing this thing. The more extreme and nuts and bonkers and weird and ridiculous that I kind of am, the more clickbait. Look, we don't need to be Ed Davey falling off of paddle boards, do we? Or any stupid nonsense. But we do. I really try to be kind of Trumpian, to try and just be a rambling, barely conceivable. What is he on about? Kind of, like, what is he talking about? His own dick or someone else's dick? Is he talking about boobs now? What's he talking about? What's going on? He's the mind of a child. It's a completely authentic human being just downloading their whole mental waffle. And like, I personally enjoy listening to that from other people. I don't know why. I love that all the podcasters all over the world. I mean, if you've got a podcast, if you've got a brand, if you're in political activism, and you agree with the majority of what's in my kind of work, we're probably going to be able to come up with, okay, here's a platform. And I would say this person has got pretty much the same platform as me. We can collaborate. I'm happy to collaborate. I'm happy to form debating groups and achieve agreement on policy proposals and just start to function like a functioning government. Like, do you know what I'll say inspired this a little bit, guys? Okay, maybe this is a good analogy. Do you remember when we were all going through that hell of the pandemic? There was UK British people I'm talking to. We had there was like a sage. It was like a sagely group, of course. Great name. I mean, really, that's great. That's actually quite good political marketing, politicking there. Very good politics. They're calling that sage. Wisdom, yeah. We would go for the advice and the know-how and all that. Well, we had to make up a proper one, didn't we? Forgive me, I forget the name, but all these heroes that set up their own thing and just started doing their own thing. Because why not? It's better than nothing. It's better than doing nothing. And now people like myself at the time were able to go, they're pointing out how mad this is. You're going to put my business and businesses like mine out of work for even longer, for no reason whatsoever, with complete shenanigans of madness, insanity. Look at what's happening here. This market is a failed market that is open to us to snatch and grab the market and change policy. Now, when it comes to countries that are a little bit more unstable, listen, it's a bit bolder. Listen, but I'm going to talk about countries that are a little bit more unstable in the world because this, again, we're all asking, what the hell are we supposed to do? We're going to do foreign aid? Are we going to do regime change? How do we fix the mess of the world, the chaos and insanity that the world has been left in, post-colonialism, even post-modern colonialism? Live current acts of colonialism taking place that are disrupting and ruining and actively sabotaging the activities of other humans. Well, the same ones that are doing that in other countries, right? They're doing it in this country too. They're doing it in every country because they're just pathological humans. They don't have an ideology, I don't think. They don't have they will flip, apart from just me, and insanity, right? And narcissism. Now, we've got great teachers in the world. 2024, we know a lot more stuff. We can get things done, people. Okay, we can. Immigrants get things done, don't they? Particularly if you are one of those. I'm not one of them. But I'll tell you what, I learned from some, and I wouldn't be who I am today were it not for having worked and been taught and like the greatest bosses. All of the great inspirational business leaders I have had, pretty much, I'm trying to think for a moment. Oh, there's one or two that not so much. No, there's a couple of Scottish ones, I will say. But by far and away the best ones, I'm sorry to say, are immigrant labour. And it doesn't seem to really matter what part of the world. It could be India, Could be could be America, could be mostly Europeans I work with, at the hotel, like with Italy, France, Spain, Poland above all. Poland. The Polish people are the most amazing workers. They just make Scottish workers look rubbish at everything, and we're rubbish at everything. How did we end up like this? Because of colonialism. The disease of colonialism impairs your development as a human, not just those being colonized, but the colonizer. Okay, it's a complete human pathology from beginning to beginning. Blah, 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 blah. We can evolve out of it. We can move beyond it, and we have to do it through politics. We have to do it through our way of life, because politics is kind of evolution. Politics is kind of Darwinian. True democracy is Darwinian, right? Because it's going to keep changing. So have a brand that evolves with democracy. Have a brand that prioritizes democracy. Have a brand that just cuts out all these historic things, which may have had value before. Maybe it did have value before. The Labour movement definitely did. The Labour movement still does. I don't want to say the old Labour movement doesn't have value. Even the business movement kind of has some value. But there must be the people. The people must be the main power. So if you believe that the people must be the main power, and you believe that when crises happen, like climate change, we cannot leave it to Marie Antoinette freak show people to do it, because they will run fascism, they will run, protectionism, they will do weird national tragedies over and over and over again. And we've got to really move beyond that. All right. So, continue with this video. Thanks. This is the big intro, longest one. And I'm going to slides will start flicking now. And then we come back to what I originally prepared. This is what it's like being an ADHD person. But I really love this format. Thanks for listening. Thanks for giving this your attention. Hopefully all my details are visible, available, and reachable. Even we could just come and knock the door if you want, down at the office, down at the studio. Studio, political-based Antifa headquarters in Leith in Edinburgh. Centre for small-time media. Small-time? Hang on a minute. Look, this is not small-time. Right, we know what I mean, sort of, local. What do you want me to say? Ethical, there you go, that's better then, right, ethical. Ethical, sensible marketing business, humane approach and humane policy ideas, strategy, anti-fa activities, anti-fascism, defeat fascism, prevent World War III, or try to get this one finished quickly if it's already started, and hopefully save the world and stuff. That's easy. Good luck to everybody. Chalks away, Churchillian here when you need me. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Okay, so let's talk about what would be core principles in open source politics. Here, this cat, I love this one of this cat being dazzled. Dazzling it is, it's fantastic here. The populist now, populist, I mean, like apocalypse now. Oh, I'm so glad you got that joke. Somebody got that joke. I'm really glad. I did. You're quite well. You're just on the same level, you and I, for some reason. We're just sort of in sync with one another at times, I find. Yeah, not in a creepy way, though. Just crack on with the. Can you mind if I do the thing? Thank you. Right. The populist now. A populist. No, wait, apocalypse? No, hang on. A populist. Me, you, the listener, the audience, maybe this cat, anyone. Populist person right now. Now, we want this now, don't we? If we had a populist now, things would be a lot better. Why? How do we know for certain, right? Do you understand the logical certainty of that? Because ideas that are popular to the Democrat and to the Liberal are good. Our job as a politician is to figure out what that is that the people want and get it to them somehow, right? Now, my populism, sometimes people associate populism, and we will, associate populism with those who claim the name, but just for the audience, the discerning audience, to figure out, well, who really is a true populist? Is it Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump and the Republicans in America? Is that populism? Is Joe Rogan populism? Is it Elon Musk populism? These are some of the most unpopular people on the face of the earth. Now, we keep representative politics for matters where there is popular ambivalence, right? So, in other words, the job of the representative politician in any level, whether it's the council, whether it is the United Nations, whether it is the European Parliament, whatever it is, where there are matters of ambivalence within the population, they have a role to play. Or rather, let me hypothetically say I have a role to play. Because if you in the audience are a member of an audience where, like, take, for example, Scottish independence, there is ambivalence, right? It's not clear whether the country definitely wants it or doesn't definitely want it. And that is unclear, right? Because of our best evidence, we can get it down to like about a swinging 10%, 5% here or there. And it shifts a wee bit, right? Where there is this ambivalence, the game of politics can be played, right? I mean, it's a game at times. I mean, it really is, isn't it? For many of them, I'm not using the word facetiously. The game of politics is, in other words, folk like me who love to have an argument, folk like me who love to play with ideas, folk like me who love to imagine the world and the future in a different way. We get to hypothesize about how it could be, and play with the ideas and run simulations in our little ADHD minds about how it could be imaginatively. What if we change this? What if we did this? What if we did that? Put this to the people. See what they think. Why don't we have? Why don't we sell off all Social Security? Like in the United States at the moment, why don't we just cut Social Security completely from the budget so that we can give a tax cut to billionaires? Will we do that? Is that populism? Well, that's what they want to do. That's what we want to do. I mean, on my side of the table, we don't have a tax cut. Any tax cuts are always good. I don't believe in a big society at all. No. The state is far too big. Take away, what is it, Social Security? Yeah, that's like pensions for old people in America. You sure you want to do that? pensions for old people. Oh, hang on a minute. Now I'm a British Tory, so not. I mean, well, he's broken. We broke our guard. Right, we're going to get a new one. I'm going to need a new Tory alter ego because that one just broken, right? Because you can't figure out where the limit is, right? Okay, what is reasonable, what's not reasonable. They just completely think that moral bankruptcy is popular somehow. Because the silly. That is not populism, is it? Okay, it's sort of like they're trying to smell the room, see how bad things are, to get their demonic thing done, their evil thing they want done. So when there's things bump up against each other like tax cuts, they've got a faction that loves tax cuts, right? You know? Just sorry, this is the thing of being improv. Sometimes you can just crack yourself up because nobody laughs at my jokes, and I won't will myself. Oh, thank God, he's okay. He's back. I'm back. Don't worry, I'm back. He's back. He's back. What were we saying? Oh, right. Yes, populism. Let me come back to this idea. So I think what you were implying, right, before I had a little glitch, is that there has to be some sort of state. Like the state can't be like completely absolutely zero, and then perhaps into the negative. Because what even is a state? If we're not looking after the old people, what's next? We're just going to cut schools next? Yeah, they cut the school. They do that. Like that's even an old trick. Good Lord, it's pretty rough in America, isn't it? How do the Americans even get anything done? They don't get anything done. We don't even know. This is what I think is the sleeping dragon. We'll come back to this later on, but while we're chatting about this potential. Political failure is such a devastating problem for our societies and our earth and our peoples, and we really have to move forward, right? So, fundamentally, a populist is someone who cares primarily about democracy, right? And I would say that instinctively that includes a notion of being aware of when there's ambivalence and being aware of when to play politics and have political debates and discussions about what the right way to go is and what things will get done. But then there is this whole bad faith category, Brexit, pish. Right, and I just arbitrarily back then when I did this first one put 75%. So I'm just going to leave it as that because I'm not necessarily going to change. My opinion has become a bit more like maybe that should just be a permanently shifting thing depending on the issue. But then that might screw with the whole point of it. So in America we've had votes and stuff where 60s are needed, and take for example we're talking about ambivalence. If the nation does not have a strong enough position over the 50-60%, 75% even, it would be considered an ambivalence to me, right? But if it reaches that kind of range, what I would call a super mandate, a level of popularity that just must be honored by politics. And so it becomes the candidate's job to defer to the people. We have a democratic safety net that can be universalized through any democratic system. It is like a candidate that promises when there is a strong enough majority, demonstrated evidentially, opinion poll after opinion poll after opinion poll will show on the American people do not want to have their social security card taken away and are all big fans of social security. It's an extremely popular part of the American economy, supporting just the basics of life for many, many elderly people, vulnerable people. They are going to try and convince the country to take it away the same way they did with Barack Obama's Obamacare. Now, who is going to be John McCain this time to rescue it? Well, John McCain would be much more closer to this kind of politics, right? Because he has this kind of ambivalent position. So again, somebody could be left or right, economically speaking, and maybe potentially not so much left-right on the social spectrum, right? Because this is about democracy and not your weird church ideas. Okay, so moving on from there, that's a long time with a stationary clip. I beg your pardon, but thanks for taking this one on. Thanks for paying attention. We're going to move on to explain how would we know what this sort of level of certainty is. What might one call such a thing? Wouldn't one want a fancy name for that? Do you mean like a democratic imperative? That might work. Okay, move on. New slide. Let's slide away. I did notice that kitten back there was quite dazzled, and here you go. You've got another dazzled kitten. You quite into the dazzling of the kittens, Mr. Dunn? Are you dazzled by the kittens? Dude, why are you looking at me? Listen, can we just keep it straightforward, Mr. Tory person with the sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge Tory stuff, right? There's a dude on TikTok who does a far-right impression that I just can't... It's so funny. Should you ever come across this, sir? My God, you're amazing on TikTok. I wish I could get your name. Again, I'm not quite sure what my rules of engagement are and stuff yet on whether I can, signpost people and do stuff. But this dude cracks me up the way he's like, it's always a bit voyeuristic, isn't it? Anyway, Kitty Dazzling for another day. Let's put Kitty Dazzling joke. This one's here is saying look at the people's democratic imperative. That's what you said a moment ago. I know. That definitely was just a moment ago, not hours and hours ago. No, it's right now. We've got this lovely flow going. The people's democratic imperative basically means candidates are obligated to vote in legislation aligning with strong popular opinion on matters achieving 75%. Now, when I wrote this is a year or two now ago since I wrote this. I have shifted my attitude a little bit on that being a more flexible percentage. But my point would be that I guess here's the thing, here's the thing to think about to the other open sourcer, and I would say maybe another open sorcerer would look at this and go, I think it should be 69%. 69, you say 69%? Don't lower. No, I've just randomly picked a number out of my head. So you just randomly picked 69 out of your head. Is that what you did? Fascinating. These politicians, they're always trying to get about, listen, look, I would just like to get back to politics, mate. Do you mind? Basically means an evident and irrefutable affirmative consensus beyond any reasonable doubt, like a kind of court thinking beyond reasonable doubt. Look, is it reasonable to think that the American people really want Social Security to be cut to pay for the tax cuts of billions? It's just absurd. It's absolutely insane that is what the people have elected over there. And so there's a kind of democratic fraud. So this people's democratic imperative thing is about saying, well, look, at the end of the day, you just do not have any business under any circumstances with any silly mandate or any kind of bait and switcheroos about, oh, sorry, remember the money that we thought was there, there's now less money, and for some reason that means we just can't do anything to what we're going to do. Oh dear, I don't know. You're referencing somebody recently that's done a major bait and switch in the political landscape. Who might you be recommending, pointing to? Well, yes, Mr. Starmer. I mean, I think that bait and switch and political kind of sort of scared about using our fraud around that guy. He's probably quite good at saying, I can sue you. But I think I've got free speech to say that, look, political fraud in terms of what I say it is with the Epoch Nova, right? And I'm sort of trying to set a new, higher bar for politics. So maybe it's unfair to be, pointing out that he said he went from a picket line to Thatcherism in under a year, right? So this guy it was during the pandemic, right? This is when, let me just finish on this with this evident consensus thing about how things should be done. Mr. Starmer sat in opposition while the government were drunk, incompetent, failing, not listening to doctors, showed a total wanton contempt for medical advice, and then has allowed them to quietly shuffle off without facing much in terms of heat afterwards. It is the behavior of a person that one must judge, not really what they say or tell you. It is what they actually do, right? Love is what we do, not what we say, although saying it's quite nice. I love to dazzle kitties, for example. So that's the thing that I just love my cat. I mean, talking about my cat, well, of course. When it comes to the imperative thing, it has to happen, right? There's no there's no quibbling, there's no ambivalent. Let's have a debate. It is happening. If the people want it, it happens in these high percentages. There just should be no debate taking place. Do you understand how much more efficient that will make our actual process of government? So let's move on to the next slide with another dazzled kitten here. Moo! Look at that one. That kitten's popping right up. Look, just don't talk about anything popping up or anything. Just clear. Look, Tories, look, everybody across the sort of mainstream spectrum of politics really should consider Epoch Nova, right? It does contain some quite radical things in it, but I think that I've tried to distill popular opinion from across the world in various democracies and put it all together. I have. I think so. So I feel like it's a winning recipe of ideas and stuff. I don't know. Let's wait and see. There's some weird stuff in there too. I'm just one guy, but I'm not going to associate with other people. Take in the oath, I've written a thing about giving up certain privileges, right? So in America, it's the right to assemble. One does not want to lose the right to assemble. I mean, I can't assemble. I'm a politician, right? So I just assemble anytime I want. But assembling to what extent, right? I mean, I can speak. My free speech has no impediment. How on earth did we get to a point where it was just okay for a whole band of politicians to just agree to take money as an organization, paid money from investors and sorry, did I say investors? I meant bribes. Did I say bribes? I meant donors. Donors who are going to pay money, and then they deliver the results, no matter how bad the results are. And we all just go, oh, okay, I'll vote for that party, or I'm a member of this team or that team, the red team, the blue team, the yellow team. This must be the end of the red team, yellow team, blue team nonsense. You understand? Well, I think I quite like my blue ties, though. Well, you can wear any tie you want, man. My point is just that I'm being sort of about the ties. You know what I mean? It's like the tie is in the red, the blue, the yellow tie wearing standard issue politicians. I don't think any of them would ever be able to sign my contract, the level of trust required. But I think also I'd spent a long time trying to think of a way to make sure that current politicians just couldn't sign up to this. For a while, I just had people who consider themselves in the field of politics from this date just cannot sign this date. This is a sort of weird blank slate clause or something like that, but I got rid of it basically because look, at the end of the day, oh, you never know, someone could read my work and go, oh, this is so fantastic, and wow, this is such a clever idea. I can just swear to the people, and I can just use technology. I don't need a bag of cronies at my back all the time. Well, this vote here is not, this thing here isn't a party. It's like saying, we're saying I will be an independent, okay? You cannot be open source and be a member of a party. Not possible. Just incompatible in terms of they're just a different style of politics. This style of politics is all about supporting the individual candidate to be their own sovereign little safe little unit. and creating, for me personally, to try and pioneer with a business model. I have had a lot of very, very hefty startup, right? Huge amounts of time invested in this, all right? Some of it not so much by choice, actually, to be honest. Some of it just about life being thrust upon me. But I want this to be a protest movement. And although it's like an appeal to the mainstream, it's appeal because most people in the mainstream are so sick to death of the current political climate and the kind of nonsense that we're getting from leaders. And the reality is, we have to find braver, more competent, taller, better looking, probably more competent people than you. Is that what you're going to say? So the taller one, man, it's just not cool. In fact, you know what? The way it's not cool is because it makes other guys who happen to not clear the 6 foot mark. I mean, by a few inches, to be honest. It's just cool to be a hobbit as well, you know? That's what I'm saying. Be a hobbit. Who cares? Like, just find a little hobbit, girlfriend, boyfriend, whichever kind of field you're playing. It's really the dynamic, height dynamic. Just, that is so toxic. Can you imagine? Listen, we're not going into that now. We're putting that for a podcast. Voting for an open source candidate is a protest vote. Of course it is, because I'm trying to create a brand that anyone could pick up the ball and run with it. And actually, they wouldn't need to at any point be challenged. This is a key thing. Imagine this. I'm speaking to the potential candidate now a little bit. With all of this thing, I'm speaking to the potential candidate. There are no technological barriers to running your own media capacity. There are absolutely none. All you got to do is be a speaker, good at speaking out, prepared to speak out. And what I would offer is a set of core, straightforward values of principles that will keep you a trustable, independent politician, free of any dodgy, toxic party influence. We've lost a few good people from the Bernie movement over to the I Hate Kamala movement and stuff like that. Weird stuff has happened, and you need to have core principles, right? Without being a member of a party, a lot of these great politicians are just lost, flitting about. No more. If you could be a candidate, if you're up for being a candidate, I mean, pretty much on any spectrum of opinion, I'd love it if you could consider Epoch Nova as a possible protest badge, a badge of protest. So no cronies here, right? It's not a party, but we will collaborate in an open source fashion, which is completely and totally above board. All right, let's move on. Where's the money, Mr. Lebowski? Oh, that's a film reference. I remember that one. Quite good. Not too bad. Well, yeah, it's just about, this will be a very quick one. Look, to say a demonetized campaign is the goal, right? Very hard to corrupt a demonetized campaign. If the person's not taking money, how can you get them to exchange money for dodgy dealings and all that? Again, kind of borrowed from the Bernie campaign, because they hear the Master Debaters t-shirt. Like, I've redesigned it a few times. I can't quite pick a perfect design for it. Some of it's like not very clean, but like trying to gauge like what's naughty, what's too naughty, what's a bit weird, whatever. Look, Master Debaters, it's meant to be a joke about that. I'd like open source politics to foster a new debating culture, really. Hopefully in Leith, like physically here in Edinburgh, right, to sort of take the politics. I'd love to have a politics festival, right? That's what I'd love to have in Leith, a politics festival, right? A bit like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is comedy, but for this to be where great political debate takes place. Fascinating. Imagine. I'm going to pitch it to a few of the venues. But listen to me, that would be Master Debaters t-shirt would come with that one, all right? And it's just about making sure that we have the money thing addressed. And we'll go further into it as we get along. But we're trying to get to a place where money does not have the level of influence over politics, quite simply, right? Get money out of politics. If you're a get money out of politics person, I'm trying to cater to you. I really am. And I'd love your support. Thanks very much. So this has got the Buddha. The Buddha has said that actually I don't want people to make statues and sort of celebrate my image and all that. He was quite against all that. The old Buddha person. Well, it's very insightful. Yeah, sure. So, well, this is about the speech thing. So I'd quite like to be taking a little bit of that humbleness and thoughtfulness, at least, right? Mindfulness about what we're doing. Is it true? So when we speak, it should be the truth. Yeah. Is it necessary? Does it really need to be said? Are we talking something that's not really worth a lot of banter? Is it kind? So even if it's anger, is it meant with kindness? Even if it's rage, is it meant with kindness? If it is an insult, is it meant with a slight bit of kindness? Sometimes, like, you can say "man up" to someone, and it's got a little tiny bit of kindness in it, because we're all the same in that, and we need to seek within ourselves what it is that makes us human, or male, or female, or whichever gender dynamic one might be. But I would say probably trying to see that less of a toxic way at times, and seeing there is some kindness in the way sometimes we say that to one another to bolster strength in one another. It can feel toxic. One could interpret that as toxic, as in you're not man enough inherently. Well, that's not what it says. It's not someone saying you're not man enough. It would be that. It was saying man up, woman up, person up, human up, hobbit up, cat up if you want. Kitten, more kitten banter. Is that where we're at again? Kitten again? Was it not? Is it NSF'd out? Now, I've just understood that means not safe for work. That means not kittens. Keep it just kitten clean only. Don't say anything other than kittens. And watch your language in here, all right? I don't know if I've sworn already, but I'm sure the parental thingy's on. fuck all this, eh? Politics is terrible at the minute. Right, next slide. So this thing, I was originally calling it the Nouveau. So that I don't have to spell nouveau. But it's like a nouveau thing, like new, that's round up with nova. The nouveau-ness, nouveau, newness, nova, new, and an age, epoch. So Epoch Nova is a contract that I then went on to write after writing all this stuff about open source, because I understood I needed to offer a more concrete, grounded, thorough politics basis, right? For which people can pick and choose and work around it and so on. Without me building an entire platform, there was no platform. Like for a while, I thought, oh, this could just go as an open source thing from day one. But then I really felt like I needed a strand that was just me, distinct from, oh, this could be for others too. So others could live under this umbrella and copy me effectively. Like, so take, for example, the simple thing about donations never exceeding the $50. So when I signed up with the Electoral Commission, well, I made contact with them. Thank you very much. They were lovely. Thank you very much. And explained to me that, yeah, there's just whatever. You get an agent and then you can start taking donations and it's Christmas, right? And I'm like, what? I just start taking, just start taking donations. It was kind of funny chat. I don't know if she can remember it, because I was like, that sounds a bit dodgy. Do they all do this? Yep, they all do that. That is dodgy, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Politics is just up for sale, isn't it? Well, yeah, kind of right. So I mean, like, Mr. Bernie Sanders has had to say, I will not take donations at all, big donations or little donations, whatever, that kind of thing. I have just copied that, right? So it started from that basis. Once you've got this, it's just more about seeing the opportunity of being able to connect this type of campaigning, this type of candidate, to that core inspirational candidate that's very popular the world over. I wouldn't want to, I have no affiliation, I have absolutely no handshake or anything or whatever from Bernie to reference, just other than having been a huge fan of his work and really built a lot of what I do and I'm trying to do around watching him succeed and fail, of course. I mean, there is no greater teacher than failure, as Mr. Yoda would say. Don't do a Yoda impression. No, just move on to the next bit now. All right? Copernicus. You always did talk about Copernicus a lot. It's almost as if you're sort of delusionally think that you're as smart as Copernicus. Is that right? Well, maybe. Copernicus looked at the right end of the telescope, if you know what I mean. But anyway, so when we're dealing with what's spinning around what here, yeah? Well, really, politicians, they should be responding to us, right? Not the other way around. Grassroots, it says here, with the double O. I wonder if I'd come up with the grassroots brand before that. No, I think I came up with the grassroots brand before I came up with this brand. But anyway, it's Copernican in the sense that I've mentioned this in Epoch Nova as well. It's like trying to get us to a point like the Magna Carta. Magna Carta is Copernican. Magna Carta is already Copernican, The US Constitution is quite Copernican as well, because it's breaking down on sort of narcissistic delusion about one being the center of the universe, when actually there being a whole universe of, other more just as important or equally valid and of concern matters in politics. And we want politics that revolve around us, not the other way. Very clever, yes. Mm-hmm. No religion, no homophobia, no moustaches. Hang on, what about my moustache? Oh, moustache, if you only had a moustache. There's a moustache song, on YouTube. I highly recommend it. Meanwhile, no suits, no PPE. Well, I don't even know about the suits. I'm not going to keep the suits on. This guy was determined to not wear suits. I'm like, I don't hate wearing a suit. I don't want to wear one every day. You know what I mean? Anyway, unidentified politics objects. So you're saying that this is an anti-party, like anti-matter. Exactly. Like matter and anti-matter, there are parties, and this is an anti-party. It's not a party. It's literally something that any individual out there can pick up like a toolkit and run in politics, hopefully to win, using some tools and supporting ideas and concepts that I can teach to you one-to-one, or you can probably just try and read my work and again, pick the ball up and run with it. Does that make sense? Well, I suppose so. Yes, I guess so. And I guess that means that the voting aspect, your little constitutional thing, you're cracking on about, I will not defer my vote to someone else. I'll only work for the people, and only the people, only, and the people, only the people, only. You did all that people only stuff, and this is what this was all about. Exactly, mate. Exactly. You want to try and get, I think, to a point where there just is no more middlemanism in politics. All right, and that makes this kind of politics a slight an anomaly. Yeah, it's existent, because everyone other politics is like, well, I get to go to my agent, and my agent will handle all my donations, and then I get to win when it's my time to win, and I get to kick off when I should kick off, and I get to take things on the chin when they say take things on the chin. I don't really respond to the people, I respond to my bosses. Yeah, it's reprehensible, isn't it? It's probably why we're in this mess. Okay, next slide then. Moving on, sliding on. Slip slide. Don't do that again. Don't sing or do anything weird. Moving on. Because this is ADD. Blame it on my ADD, baby. Are all parties bad? Hell yeah, all parties are bad. We ain't got nothing to do. I ain't got no time for that. We know. We just do nothing about it, right? Anti all parties, possibly revolutionary. Think about it this way. Can a person not be a candidate alone? If a person cannot manage a communication campaign with this many folk unaided with cash, then they probably are not fit to govern, I would suggest. I mean, I don't know. This is all talk, innit? I'm going to win an election, yeah, but if I did, it'd be quite stunning. And if other people won elections with a similar platform or even the exact same platform in a collegiate fashion, it would be fantastic. It'd be amazing. But we don't want cronies. Like, I'm never going to be in a position where some other crony or even like the party gets to decide how I vote in a thing. The only people that should decide how I vote in a thing is the people who are backing me and voting me. Okay? No more of this. This is the new age. Chance to end the cronyism. What have we got here? Oh, yeah. To clear all this cronyism out. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp, man. Democracy is dwindling away from us. We must not let it happen. No. Don't drain the swamp. What's your one? Mugs and stuff. Don't be a mug. Who you calling a mug? Who are you calling a mug, eh? Right, I don't want to bury the lead or anything for the listener. I know that it's all about keeping them on your thing as long as possible. Then YouTube might pay some money or something. Are you going to declare that? Well, of course I'll declare that, yes. I mean, if I do start to earn money from YouTube, it will be disclosed. Of course it will. It's normally about the sort of side hustle. It's great. If you're supporting me and backing me and liking and clicking and stuff, fantastic. Thank you very much. Popular is not the word which springs to mind when we think of politicians. So populism, and this being a populist movement, would be radically different from what it is now. To have a candidate who is genuinely popular in the world, fantastic. Well, I think in this day and age, a candidate could be able to conduct their own democracy, really. Well, I mean, like I was saying, I don't want to bury the lead, but it sounds like you're just saying you want to be a populist, but not just not a 100% populist. Exactly. Yeah. It's like populism, but with a little caveat of, look, when the country is kind of divided, almost in a 50-50, in a 60-40, somewhere in that range, where there is a measured democratic ambivalence. And I mean, think about it. That really puts every single democratic majority over the last 20, 30 years into doubt, personally, because things like austerity, nobody wanted that. This would explain why many things happen to us that we just don't want to happen yet in a democratic system. So this brand here would be a blank slate, kind of representing a protest vote that is generally accepted that the candidate is not affiliated with any other candidate wearing the same badge. It's just that we've all agreed to the same core principles and that our audience awareness will be collectivized because the core principles will be shared to be the same. Again, like a party, but not a party. Yeah, okay. Open source politics, candidates, etc. really get the people's politics up front. Yeah, well, okay, it's not. I don't hate the idea. I'll be honest. It's crackpotish. Well, crackpot is a bit hard. It's maybe crackpipish. Maybe. Thanks, man. Okay. Open source politics could allow for public figures who would like to enter politics for moral ethical reasons while avoiding getting bogged down in additional damage through association. Damage to association, open source democracy. Well, it's like sort of, you mean because you hang out with somebody who's political but thinks something that you don't like, it might impact your view. So this brand actually would insulate every single candidate from any negative impact from signing up to politics and getting to vote to politics. It would almost like allow for a semi-celebrity person, even an influencer, perhaps someone in the entertainment field, to just enter politics and have something of a shield that will protect them from the toxicity of other politics and give them a platform to use their popularity to defeat fascism. Is that the plan? Yeah, that's the plan, mate. I don't need to add anything to that. Just don't give away the whole plot just yet. You know what I mean? Otherwise, how are we going to defeat fascism if you just tell them what we're going to do? Well, that sounds like a pretty good plan. I'm open to the plan. I like the term open source. Open source. What kind of candidate are you? Well, I'm an open source one. Well, did you know that man over there, he pinches bombs and stuff? Well, that's nothing to do with me because I'm a member of open source and I'm not really a member of anything. It's just a kind of an idea that we all share. Oh, right. Okay, fair dues. It does, it's a bit of a shield. It does work. It means that you're never having to give any apologies for other people pinching bombs and stuff.
So we're still getting hassled by my cat as well as this comedy cat here. He's looking for snacks. Forgive me. So we get interrupted. Forgive me. Where are we at now? We're at yes. I just feel like running, as Forrest Gump would say. Life is like a box of chocolates, unless of course it's politics, in which case it's just a box full of the same crap. Okay, they're all the same. You do know what you're going to get. Life is not like a box of chocolates. It's well, I mean, it is. You know what I mean, right? In politics, they're all the same. Yeah, you get my idea, right? So OS politics, open source politics. It's a way to really provide the basic services of businesses and support that the other platform politicians get. So, like a brand, a name, a vague sense of identity, a vague collaborative marketing. So, in other words, me being an open source candidate and you being an open source candidate means that the media and stuff will need to say, oh, there's some open source candidates. I want to know what that means. And be like, well, what's an open source candidate? Blah, blah, blah. Well, they're not really a party. And watch them just flounder on trying to explain it, right? And then it was, well, actually, we have to treat each individual candidate like an individual because they've basically agreed to a few loose things about their policy platform, but on pretty much everything else, they're just kind of puritanical Democrats, right? That's what I want us to be. I want it to be the free speech warrior thing has been co-opted. We have to re-co-opt it. All right. Retirement plans. So this one here, like, how do you have to set up a code of conduct? I've worked on that and produced Epoch Nova since producing this material we're looking at here. So originally, this idea in my head was to use the open source platform itself to do a lot of what I've ended up doing in Epoch Nova, and then saying, well, open source politics is a way to market the candidates and just let the candidates do their own thing. If the candidates wish to sign and borrow some constitutional ideas of mine and take on the same thing, then fantastic, wonderful. Again, it means that we're all marketing the same ideas, putting forward the self-funding notion, so like fund your own candidates. Look, have a grassroots candidate. Just don't let them take any money from a party. Don't let them campaign for corporate money at all. Just let them only campaign for actual voter support from the voters directly. And then they can always cut us off. If they're sick of us, they don't want us anymore, they just stop funding us and then we'll go out of business. And that brings the kind of accountability that I want in politics. So I hope that makes sense. It's the cronyism dying out with the party will mean that politics can start to be the truly open source place of change and invention that we want it to be. Party loyalties and whips and all this nonsense could be behind us. Now, the pundit class will have less to sort of talk about. The whole Crufts show, as the wonderful Ash Sarkar says, it's like Crufts, isn't it? And it is like Crufts. This is an end to the Crufts nonsense, okay, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sick to death of it. I really am. Retirement plans. So what are people going to do after their career as well? We need to really put as much regulation in place for our candidates. Thank you. It says here, any refugees from the Americas will comprehend the meaning of maintaining First Amendment rights. Do you want to explain that? What the hell? What on earth is that? Right. Well, I mean, straightforwardly, man. It's like, it says here, codify the separation of church and state. Like, people are familiar enough. Like, in my mind, right, America has, to some extent, as a superpower, somewhat conquered the globe. You know what I mean? Would you accept that? Well, I mean, sort of. Yes, global influence of the West has been very dominant in culture and economically speaking, military power, all of these areas. Americana, I would say, does in fact, it's not like it doesn't rule the world as such, but it's certainly a well communicated part of culture. Yes, I mean, things like the English language, for example, is extremely well. It's a blessing, isn't it? I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, because when you start if your first language is English, you then are not really under pressure to learn a lot of different languages. So I guess like a lot of what I've done with open source is try to put forward something that could easily travel around the world, because like from my point of view, thinking about a global market with this is essential, right? Well, a global market, yes, but how are you going to? You're talking about how are you going to win an election at home? Well, that's the thing, mate. I've written a kind of poem, ranting, spoken word thing called "Nations Have No Borders." Nations have no borders. That's absurd. But nations have borders. Look, you have to have a secure border. No. I mean, look, I'm not diminishing the need for security and law and order and even just boundaries. It's about jurisdictional reasons. It makes common sense, isn't it? But the world is moving to a more. Would you agree federalism is the general direction of the world? Sort of notion of layers of government all the way down to the local level and then all the way up to the supranational level. Yes. Okay, yes, I do. Right. Well, what my concern is that we might be in already a time of cold civil war in the United States and possibly fracturing of NATO and Europe. And I don't really know what the consequences of that are. If I'm honest, that's one of the reasons why I want to get into politics right now and just try and get another pair of hands on the wheel. Do you know what I mean? And get as many other good people out there to consider getting into politics. If I set the bar very, very low with my own performance, yes, I know exactly what you mean. You are setting the bar very, very low with your performance in general. So that should obviously make other people feel a bit like, well, surely I could get involved and give that chap a hand. For good Lord, good to sake. As I've said before, help this man. So why don't I talk about the government bit now? Can I chat seriously for a moment? Put you down. Thanks for helping me out there, man. You're welcome. Anytime. That's what I'm here for. I'm just here to be a bit of an artificial narrator. And of course, we're two totally different people. And yes, but crack on. Off we go. Right. On what basis could this form a government? How would we do that? So then, if you're saying that there cannot be, if the theory that I'm putting forward, the best way to be is to not be in a party, and you always need a party to form a government, well, we're going to challenge some of those things. The short answer is I don't have a concrete
guarantor this is how it will go down. But what I would point out to you, what I would suspect, right, and this is certainly for my part of it, if we are operating in the way that I'm designing, right, keeping the approval of most of your voters and keeping at least your people behind you and supporting you financially and in the ballot box is your main priority at the moment, right? So it's kind of like, okay, let's just get over this, because I think we need to get through an election cycle. By the next election cycle, wouldn't it be amazing if there were a whole bunch of independent candidates running all over the place? In every election, Canada, Australia. I've got some contacts in Australia. I don't have contacts in Canada or New Zealand, or, there's lots of places in the world where I just don't have anyone. So it'd be lovely to hear from people anywhere around the world who go, I'm trying to get into politics. I would like to run as a candidate, but I hate all our political parties. And I think we need a different kind of a new way forward. And what I would like to do with open source politics, as I've said, the reason to just try and get as much under one tent, of tent of change, a change tent, don't mean pitching a tent. No, mate, I don't mean pitching it. Can you keep your mind on this thing at the moment? Well, you're the one with the saucy thoughts every now and then. No, I'm not. I'm just, listen, I'm trying to think about politics. Politics and that thing, listen, stick with the thing, yeah? Right. Get on with it. Get on with it. You, candidate, hear me, independent person, fruitcake whack job person. Listen, anybody who's a kind of satirist, anyone who's kind of got even a little bit of a media presence or a little bit of social media presence, I mean, you are already a super caliber actor compared to who we generally have in politics. They don't have anything like the clout that you have already on a social media platform. If you've got millions of followers or thousands of followers, hear me out. Because you could switch from what you're currently doing to my business model, which does involve running for elections as well, right? And take your Patreon commentary business model you've got now and just add in two other things to it. Run in an election, collaborate with media and marketing with some fruitcake people like myself, maybe even help me do better. I've been told that quite a lot, particularly by feminists. So I'm sure that would be worthwhile, don't you think? Girls, maybe get some kind of any kind of balance or any kind of sense of, okay, that's all right, Mr. Crazy Dunn, but what about this and what about that and what about that? And bounce the ideas around and see if we can come up with something better. Because it's like to genuinely go from being commentariat, I'm here for clicks and likes and whatever, and just go, right, okay, well, wouldn't it be better if I actually won an election? And then I could have a lovely job in government with a lot of safety, a lot of brand security is what this provides, a lot of name and brand security and protection and whatnot, and a boost to your chances of actually getting over the line. So I guess on what basis could this form a government? Well, I'm hoping to put this idea to people who could take the ball and run with it, who are already quite strong. Okay, Gary Lineker, maybe, Carol Vorderman, anybody, it's really not for me to lock it in. It's meant to be open source. So there could be people who are doing things similar to me. Maybe they've got a small business, better one than mine. And they're like, they're just like, I just can't associate with either. All of the parties are toxic. Do you know what I mean? They're all toxic, right? So any middle of the roader who's like, well, I could get into politics if they have coinciding principles with what I'm putting forward here, even just like 90% in alignment with the idea that I will defer my vote to the people when the people want something. Above all, I'm just a representative. The principles that I've gone and put into the Constitution. As for this platform, to distinguish the two, this is just a little bit more flexible. Do you know what I mean? I think this needs to be a bit more flexible. If I've got something that's very, very sign the dotted line, puritanical, to have something that's a bit more flexible, I would say this is a mainstream platform, brand, identity for independent candidates who will never, ever sign up to joining one of the mainstream parties unless it's for, kind of democratic reasons. Basically just want to follow Bernie Sanders' business model pretty much with a few tweaks on it and all that. This is the ticket. This could be the one. Now, the question is actually government. So we've got past winning elections, then you're on to, well, how do you win it? Let's say we have a cohort of all of us, a bunch of independents, and really we've only got these core principles in alignment with one another. It will be very, very easy to form a government, right? Like, think about, honest to God, you have then got a much more stable government. Like, why do most governments fail, right? Why do they collapse? They collapse because some dubious nonsense with the party corruption. This is like a very anti-corrupt platform. And if people on this ticket are failing their core, goals to the people, we can get rid of them, we can remove the brand, and we can remove them. So it's like an opportunity to refine what's there. I've written some stuff here. This is a wee bit dated now, this stuff here. Trying not to sound Trumpian, but people voted for change and anti-corruption, and thus populism. And remember, this is a kind of pragmatic populism. It's like not populism off the hook populism. It's saying that where the people feel very strongly,
into the 70s of percentiles, even testing that as best you can, you have to go with the people. Certainly going against the people to do something like, oh, let's just eliminate Social Security from the US budget and give all the billionaires a nice tax cut. This would be a violation of this contract. Do you know what I mean? Of this kind of contracted politics that I'm putting forward here. And so new people, blank slate people who do not answer to a third party and only answer to the voters, there's also a protection from any kind of toxic activities. Do you know what I mean? Fundamentally, that government in itself would be very, very stable. Much more stable than historic governments is my answer to this question. In the same manner, just in a much more stable way, because everyone think about it, right? Everyone elected on this platform would then take the same democratic process to running a government. So where's the conflict? Where's this dispute? Where's all this because most of it is just power struggle nonsense, isn't it? Personality politics nonsense. How much of what we actually see going on the media and the blah, 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 blah is actually doing of politics? Or it's just who's who? Kind of like, what is that again? Yeah, Crufts. So the answer, I hope that's answered that reasonably well as best I can. Okay, now moving on, we've got some other principles. Some other principles that belong to the open source politician and the candidate of the like that we're going to have on board. Let's move on to the next thing. Thanks, mate. Brilliant. Right, okay, dear listener. Very serious point here. Secularism in principle, right? In case I wasn't clear a moment ago. In case I'm not clear ever. Some of the time you'll find me quite unclear. Forgive me. Brain has been less than effective post-pandemic, right? At times. And so be absolutely clear about this. I think that open source politics, because of democracy, because of core democratic principles, this therefore has to be secularist in principle, okay? Not only that, but what do we mean by secularist? Well, we mean in core, never letting, see here's a little wall there built, right? Open source politicians can easily say, and I would advise them to say, running on this platform as a candidate to be an independent politician, you want to say that you want to build a wall, okay? But it is a wall between the church and the state. And there is no clearer, more profound, more straightforward, more globally recognizable way to say that other than to refer to the US Constitution, I think. Therefore, it is logical for us seeking to build a global progression of such enlightenment. I mean, I do mean this is a great compliment to the United States, hopefully, to every single member. I kind of consider myself kind of a de facto member of the United States. I think that most of the world kind of consider themselves at least influenced by the culture because it is such a hugely dominant culture the world over. So we all love America. We all love the Statue of Liberty. We all want to come to, just like people love Scotland, they love Ireland. They don't really love, they sort of love London and England, the other bits of England, maybe, whatever. It's, we all love France. We all love Italy. Look, guys, I'm being facetious. Come on, I'm being ridiculous. People, look, this whole world is a beautiful place. There are people with hatred, and then there are normal people. Right? And there are way more normal people in the whole wide world than there are hateful, deranged people. Open source politics, new age politics, Epoch Nova, we're trying to unite the non-fascist people. We're trying to unite the anti-fascist movement. And I think the way to do it is to take the most clear-cut inspirational things from global culture. I mean, I've even put the Lest We Forget into Epoch Nova now. Since writing this work on open source, I've progressed it quite a bit to try and get some language that's clickbait-ish, but also not in an offensive way. None of this is about being offensive in the way that clickbait is kind of a bit of a, some of what I do is, but this is the core political message here is one of great hope and union and idealism. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. You can run as a candidate. You can just go, what the hell? Listen to any local business person, especially to local business people who are competent local business people. Listen to the market. Democracy is a way of sniffing the market. If you're having to manufacture garbage and try really, really, really hard to sell it, let me just advise you, it's much easier in business if you figure out something that's popular and just meet the need, right? Politics is like that. This is a business model to some extent. Because I want to get people over the line and I want to win in democracy and I want to represent the people. The people are generally good, kind, giving, compassionate, tolerant, mindful, and above all, and this is where I want to get to in this bit before I forget, because it's secularist in principle, folks, and because of the fact that I'm saying the United States is somewhat fallen, angel fallen, whatever has fallen, the White House has fallen, right? Is because
the principle of religious freedoms has been co-opted, I would say distorted, utilized in a villainous, bad faith fashion. Ironically, used in bad faith, right? Would be an easiest way to say it, yeah? Like the rights, the religious rights of some extreme people are now overriding the rights of the majority of people. Just like the reason that that nation was founded to create freedoms, those freedoms have now been taken away and removed in reverse. And that isn't actually uncommon in its history. As we know, there's a great hypocrisy throughout all of our human history in every nation on earth, whether it be from the church or the state or corporations. There is great hypocrisy and nonsense and lies being told. Now, we can either continue with that or we can either change it. We can have truth-telling politicians. We can have secularist politicians. We can have anti-corruption politicians. We can have politicians who will defer their votes in power to the will of the people. Strong will of the people must never, ever, ever be overridden. And here we go, getting to my final point here. Because of all that, one has to protect children, and one has to keep them safe from religion, and one has to protect women and keep women safe from religion. The idea that a woman's right to choose, so pro-choice, this must be a pro-choice position. The majority position, the most popular position, is pro-choice. This does not need to be discussed. This is a settled subject. Only those who want to bring it into politics have bad faith intentions. They want to tell lies, they want to defraud people, and they want to scare people and sort of bully people into voting to dismantle their own rights. A New Age politician, just like a New Age politician as we're about to discuss, cannot be pro-war, can never, ever be against the liberties of women and children because of any religion or any corporation or whatever the hell it is. Protections have to be constitutionally agreed, and they have to be irrefutable. And secularism in principle means more than just, oh, well, we'll let you say Happy Christmas whenever you want. It means that you don't get to take away anyone else's right to understanding their own body, to living a happy, healthy life, to having a sex positive, normal, healthy, happy development, and being completely safe from predators, whether they be in the church or the police or the NHS or in schools or wherever. Safety from predators. And so the church is just incompatible with open source politics. Church members, whether you've made it into parties like the SNP or the Lib Dems, or you've managed to sort of turn up in Labour somewhere looking like you're not a kind of extreme conservative person with bad faith who's telling lies and then voting a different way, voting in line with the church whenever you get a chance. You do not belong anywhere near this kind of politics, so don't even dream about it, okay? That is so anti-politics. The church, the Bible, any kind of religion really doesn't belong anywhere near this politics. I hope I've made that absolutely clear. And what that guarantees as well is the basics of feminism are here. So this, I would hope, could be regarded a feminist movement for sure, as well as a liberal but moderate liberal movement. Okay, well, let's move on then. That was a lovely rant there. Clarified that a little bit. Okay, moving on. Thank you. Next slide. Oh, good lord, there's a lot of stuff on this one then. Mr. Dunn, simple. How hard can that be? Question mark. Why don't you start there? Well, all right, I know. It's cocky to come in and say everything's all easy peasy, blah, 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 blah. Maybe not easy, maybe just straightforward, right? There's nothing straightforward about what you're writing and how you communicate. For goodness sake, you can barely finish a thought even for 2 seconds. Right, man. Okay. Open source candidates do what exactly? Well, it's supposed to be politicians, right? Exactly. We need the people's polling agency, right? So like a polling agency, like a superior polling agency to the ones that exist right now would be a proposition of mine to inform our outcomes. However, up front, in the meantime, right, a candidate can just fundamentally be running their own little democratic data gathering service locally. So it's like a local micro business actually doing a grassroots scale-up business, which I've done before, from nothing scale-up, right? So there's a bit of door knocking, there's a bit of gathering organic leads, there's a bit of making good, solid, concrete, local leads and holding on to them over time. Now, if a local politician cannot do that, they are not fit for politics, okay? Now, all right, hang on, steady on. I mean, but you've got to have a party. You've got to join the party, and then the party provides you with a little agent, and the party does all your numbers for you, and then you just turn up and make the speeches, and that's it. Yeah, I just think this is a guff politics, isn't it? Guff is putting it nicely, man. It's like it's a fraud upon the people. All right, for goodness sake. I mean, it's not a fraud upon the people. We're just representing the party and the people at the same time. It's just not possible, is it, mate?
Get the party system dead and gone. That's what we're trying to do. That is a very vote-winning issue to the listener, to the potential candidate, to the one thinking, I could do this maybe even better than this chump from Edinburgh. Maybe you could. I bet you could. So open source candidates are doing what? Like I said, so they're kind of doing their own little small scale democracy, aren't they? They have to make sure that the people who are backing them financially, so supporting and funding their campaign on a local level, you get door knocking, get out there, make connections. It's the same people. And then you have to represent the people that live in that house all the time. So actually, even if the property changes hands, you should do what a lot of other businesses do and try and make sure that you get to continue on to the next occupier of the property. And just think about this like an actual business where the end job is a sweet salary, which they all find to be, it's chicken feed, blah, 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 blah. To my target market, you the casual listener, you the casual YouTuber, you the casual Instagram, whatever kind of commentariat person who's like, I could run in politics. And maybe you've even had a comment from me saying, why aren't you running in politics? I personally, even if I'm me, not this crazy person who I bring in every now and then. You're the crazy one. I'm not. I just have got it in your head. Oh, Nino. Look, that's the comedy police. They're here for you this time. No, they're getting you. You're not funny. Comedy police come after you. They've been after you for a long time. You know, you'll spend time in the slammer. They don't think you're funny then either, sunshine. Beebo, beebo, beebo. Just going to get someone with drugs. Like, so when we get the drugs, there's a drugs thing. I would also see, like, what I'd like to talk to other candidates about is, can we agree on what we think are the most popular winning issues, like a handful of them, in alignment with something resembling my proposal for New Age politics, right? For a kind of easy to understand, get rid of the third party, just the people in the candidate type of politics. Bernie Sanders inspired politics, right? Try and get that communicated effectively. I think that's very doable. And then run on a few popular things. And so, I mean, you can see I branded myself as the Manchurian candidate. What do you mean you branded yourself? I branded you as the Manchurian candidate, excuse me. I will be able to claim royalties on that, I should think, because I actually am the Manchurian candidate. No, mate, I'm the Manchurian candidate. No, we're going round in circles again. Look, can you just stick to the subject matter to get the job done now? Thank you, mate. Thank you. Do you know, look, you could do better. People, funnier people. I mean, I'm not even funny. This is rubbish, isn't it? This is guff, right? But Christ, have you looked at the mainstream of politics right now? Have you looked at who's winning? Don't compare yourselves to like the best other person in your competitive set. Compare yourself to your local MP or MSP or whatever part of the broken up UK you're in, right? Or to be honest, right, even Canada, New Zealand, anywhere in this sort of anywhere where this can translate, to be honest, it's open source. This is what the genius of Wikipedia open source is. It's like, it's here. Pick this ball up and run with it. I'm putting it on YouTube. All I want is a wee handshake and a little nod and a little, hey, I got this idea from this Raj Hobbit Scottish guy. And I've now decided that, yeah, what the hell do I need a party for God's sake? All I need to do is listen to the people democratically. And the thing is, we can be very confident that if you do that well, we will probably come to almost the same answers. Because normal what we call politics, what we're exposed to as politics, is 99% horse manure, garbage, trash, brain effery. Can't remember if I put the warning on this, but I want to use some really foul language right now, because you know why we're having our heads caved in with this guff. To be a local candidate who is normal will generally get a lot of affection and support, right? The thing that I've seen bring down local candidates, popular candidates, people in the community really like them, is their affiliation with the mainstream party. Well, technology and these platforms have now made it so I do not see the value in this third kind of wheel, if you like, to the arrangement. My politics, New Age politics, open source politics is about me, the politician, the candidate, maybe you, the listener, soon to be candidate, hopefully will be a candidate, and then the voters, and developing a stronger and more interesting bond with them and getting better at being a politician. I want to raise the caliber, raise the reputation of being a politician, right? Out of the gutter, out of the crud that it is now, to being something dignified and something noble and something professional, right? And it will be the case, I think, in my lifetime, I hope, that the world over, the idea of going to a standard mainstream member of a party type of politician, someone who is not a constitutionally new age politician, will seem absurd. It will seem like something that we used to do blindly before the days of regulation or something, okay? Let's have that vision in mind, that we can get to a point where, be the standout candidate in every election, be the standout candidate in every contest, because you've sworn this greater, higher, more esteemed, standardized thing. And it is about creating a new age in politics and using an open source platform for politics to bring forward candidates with vision, candidates with integrity. Vision, I mean, for change, for God's sake, and a belief in democratic wisdom and democratic truths and world things like I think that are quite core and fundamental. Want to go on to next, samurai militarism, okay? And I've put that in my oath, and I do think it belongs as a core principle of this platform, samurai militarism. Okay, let's move on to that now. Oh, goody, finally, some samurai banter. I've been waiting this whole time for the warrior stuff. Come on, you better be telling us how to swing that sword and all the rest of it. Don't be talking about swords. The sword, we'll come back to the sword fall and how to get rid of dodgy candidates later on. That's not what I meant. What do you mean? What are you talking about me for dodgy candidate? I'm not a dodgy candidate. Look, I'm not saying you're one. I'm just saying, listen, we'll come to that later. So yeah, Bushido, ways of the warrior. Ways of the warriors of Bushido. Ways of thinking just generally. Look, I have no right, I've said here, I have no right or business or any ownership of Japanese culture that I can claim whatsoever. And I'm completely ignorant and hopefully just trying my best not to be offensive. But look, what it says on the internet is that there are 7 samurai principles, one of them being righteousness. Now, I interpret righteousness as justice, perhaps, in the way it was being communicated or translated, whatever. Loyalty, honor, respect, honesty, courage, and consistency. I think a constitutionalist would like the sound of that, don't you think? I'm not a constitutionalist politician. But this is so. If you're an open source politician, you're a constitutionalist. You believe in having standards for your own conduct, standards for your behavior in politics. What they are is kind of up for grabs, right? I've written a constitution to connect with my voters, and I've called it Epoch Nova, and it's very clonable, and you could literally just do the same one if you want, and that would be cool. That would be the easiest way to do it. But on the other hand, you being a clever, creative person who've already got a platform and probably superior at all of this than me, you could easily write your own one and just come up with a better one and actually set an even more clear set of, okay, well, I'm going to do a couple of terms and I'm just going to leave, or whatever you could do. You could say, for example, like me, I'd say, well, my main goal is I want to be the chancellor and I want to create a cargo bike economy and I want to do public health. And I want public health to be like a Pilates renaissance and all these things. But they are things to do with me and my platform and whatnot. And I would contribute those ideas to the open source platform. And then we would talk about them and we just kind of get to adopt, guess what? A proper culture of progressive politics. Unlike the guff that is going on right now. Even the commentariat is just following the clown car around. We're never going to fix anything with any of this nonsense. We need serious people who genuinely care about politics, who've got a lot to say. Like me, ranting and raving is good fun. And if you're like me, I love ranting and raving, and it's cathartic. It'll make you feel better. Getting into open source politics, joining my bandwagon, getting on board with this little ideology here, sort of bare bones of an ideology that there is, nothing that's too conscriptive, something that most people can sign up to, a brand awareness, with core principles. One of them must be this, the way of the warrior. To some extent, we must be able as candidates to guarantee to our voters that we will not take our nation into the folly of national warfare. That national warfare is kind of a ridiculous, absurd, sort of peacocking display of a broken society run by broken men doing the brokenness. Okay, young men listening to me. I mean, I'm sorry, young-ish, 40s considered relatively young, midlife crisis, smack on the button. Maybe this is just a big one of them. Who knows? But I don't really want to go to war, guys. Okay, I don't want to. I've done a lot of pull-ups and I've been fit my whole life. Don't make me try and be super fit in my 40s in case I end up in some ditch trying to crawl out of some God-forsaken trench and run away from a drone. I don't want to go to war, guys. All right, young men, that guy, you know who I mean? The double dick jerking dancing guy, Donald Trump. When he breaks the economy, and when they always break their economies, they go and send younger men out to war to do insane things, monstrous things, and they come back all insane and they're never happy. And it doesn't lead to anything good. Okay. Meanwhile, so this is an abolition of colonialism, an abolition of invasion, an abolition of regime change without a plan, an abolition of the things that have made the world such an unstable place now that it is now. We can undo all that, draw a line in the sand, and say that no candidate will take our country to the folly that is national war. Preemptive strikes will never be a policy of our candidates. And if we have candidates in every nation who believe that and subscribe to that and guarantor that to their people, we can have a very secure world. Now, on the other hand, how come people like Corbyn struggle, right? So I struggled with Mr. Corbyn too. Mr. Corbyn is probably my UK leader, I would consider, right? I tend to look to him as my Gandalf figure in the UK on almost every matter. Really, really I do. But that doesn't mean I always agree with the guy. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a security alarm going. That's because it's the comedy. The police and oh no, it's gone. I thought it was the police for the satire and the bad comedy police. We've had that joke a few times.
Shall we just get back to what I was saying? Thanks, mate. Yeah. The problem is, do you remember Mr. Corbyn getting hoisted on Question Time? Very memorable. Are you going to press the button? Are you going to press the button? What would you do? This ridiculous nonsense has to end, right? There has to be a very clear philosophical position on defense and warfare. I want to put forward this thing, samurai militarism, based with great humbleness and respect, hopefully, the nation of Japan, to something that probably, like somewhat like the William Wallace legend, will hardly really fit accurately to truth and all the rest of it. And I understand all that. But politics is about storytelling, and the future is a story that we have to tell through politics. And this is a story I want to tell. The idea that there is a just warrior, the idea that there is a warrior who's always sharpening that sword, shining that epic armor, right? I love the armor, right? When I think of samurai, I think of the Shredder from Turtles. I'm a Turtles kid, right? I grew up watching the Turtles, among other things. But the Turtles had the villain and the guy with the Shredder outfit on. Shredder's like a samurai, that kind of ancient Japan samurai kind of vibe. There's meant to be nobility, a kind of stoical sense of right and wrong, at least the attempt to be moral, an attempt to be good, an attempt to be truthful, an attempt to only be courageous and brave and consistent and not go and do barbaric colonialism, barbaric invasions of tinier countries, exploitation and theft and stealing of resources. This is barbarism, and I would like to see it cast out of our politics completely with commitments to some form of traditional ancient wisdom. I'm just borrowing from Japan. There may be even better examples. But we'll understand the Kurdish people have got some really interesting ideas going on at the moment. How do we make it clear that one has to be prepared for defense at all times? That preparedness beyond preparedness is the military policy I'm putting forward in my sort of tapestry manifesto, etc. I've not included that here, but fundamentally, it is that. It's about saying, well, you sharpen that blade, right? Because you don't ever want to have to use it, but when you want to use it, it will be deadly. And that blade, let me tell you, military matters in the UK, how to defend our island. This will be the most impenetrable military island outside of Japan. And being impenetrable, being defensive, being prepared beyond prepared, preparedness beyond preparedness, readiness beyond readiness. These are very good, virtuous goals to have, and it keeps men occupied. It keeps us doing something, right? It keeps us training. We do war games with other nations, and we just reduce the collateral damage of national warfare, the terrorism-inspiring collateral damage that we're witnessing now, the instability-creating ludicrous warfares that we're seeing going on, religious-based usually as well. Remember, we're trying to keep secularism out, keep secularism in politics and keep the extremism out of politics with this, by saying to the people, don't vote for extremists, just vote for people who are extremely unextreme. Does that make sense? So there will be very, very strong defensive culture in a samurai militarism. Samurai militarism is not, oh, we press the button, no, we need unilateral disarmament. This is probably unwise, I think. Most people intuitively don't do it. That's why it's unpopular, doesn't win elections. What I think will win elections, and what I think is just common sense, frankly, just my attitude, is we be absolutely impenetrable. A fortress. But generally, because of that fortress, very chilled out and relaxed about how safe we are. And also, above all, not causing chaos and economic warfare and acting out things like arming the Mujahideen in Afghanistan and whatever, and just not doing any of these things anymore, we will get us to peace. The way of the warrior would not include that. Do you know what I mean? These principles would not have taken us into Iraq. So samurai militarism is just a phrase I'm using. Bushido is the traditional one, the way of the warrior. It's like to say to the army that I can be trusted. I have great reverence for militarism. Really, I do. I was brought up in quite a militaristically minded, and I was just attracted to it myself because I like discipline and I like the idea that we have nobility. Like when I went and applied to be an RAF pilot, so like I wanted to join the RAF, and I got to be old enough to go and do the applications and I got to the application stage and said to me, they gave me what I now know is called the talk. And the talk is like, look, son, I know you like these jets because I love jets and I love engineering. I love, I used to have a big poster of an SR-71 Blackbird on my wall at the time. And I now know that this is kind of the talk because I asked a couple of, other military guys about it since. And I'm like, he told me that I am a weapon. He told me that this isn't about flying planes or marching or wearing uniforms or Top Gun or anything cool stuff that I was into at the age of 16. Although I didn't even get at all that it was gay when I was 16. Woo, straight over my head. Don't know. Hilarious. Anyway, moving on. The guy said to me, if you kill who we say, you kill. You drop bombs on who we say, you drop bombs on. And if you don't like that, we will shoot you.
And I was like, oh my lord. I mean, at that point, I was a big fan of Paddy Ashdown and the Lib Dems at the time. Paddy Ashdown and Lib Dems, that was kind of where my voting habits were at the time. And I realized I just wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not a killer. Nah. No, not in that manner. I would kill to defend my home. If we're doing that, I'm here all day for it. But you're explaining to me that I could get dispatched to something insane. And lo and behold, it wasn't long before we were all dispatched. It was only 3 or 4 years, really. So maybe they knew something I didn't know before Iraq. Was it 3 4 years? Let me think. It was maybe was it more than that? Less than that? No, it was about 2 3 years. It would have been before Iraq. So I have friends who ended up there in that folly. So I've rambled for a bit now on the issue, but just to be clear about my anti-war credentials, an anti-war protester, someone who was and I sympathise with people who are in the army, and I sympathise with people in the police as well. Just kind of give up their sense of autonomy. Don't be an automaton anymore, guys. Quit the police, quit the armed forces, quit all these things at the minute. Come and use words and wisdom and politics and help me win elections, and we will just delete this kind of warfare from the history books. It will be a thing that we used to do, but we don't do anymore. Okay? Thank you. Final slide. Hang on a minute. I thought you said there was another slide coming. This is just you trying to look all cool in New York and stuff. Yes, I know, mate. There's another fun one for me in New York when I meet the Sesame Street gang, you know. I don't care. Can you get back to politics, please? Okay, thank you. Right, fine. Sorry. Yeah. So this is you've just heard about open source politics. Open source politics would be how I would describe the manner of other candidates and myself trying to change UK politics by coming in as an independent who operate out with the party system and are really, really seriously trying to win elections as independents only. Strictly independents, lifelong independents with a kind of vague inspiration of the Bernie Sanders movement, right? Meanwhile, how do you get there? Well, strategies. Try to be weird, try to be a communicator. I've got the weird thing sorted, right? So, for sure, you got the weird thing sorted out. Don't worry. To be honest, you could probably tone the weirdness down a bit. You might have to get us to get somewhere. No. The rules of the internet. This is 2024. The rules of Trumpism. What you do is just stand up there and talk in a degrading way about women, or talk about other people's genitalia randomly all the time, or release copies of the Constitution with the Bible in it. Look, that Constitution and the Bible was not a good idea, was it not? It's 2 books at the same time. Look, mate, we've not got time for... Listen, we've covered this. We've covered it. Literally in here, we've covered it. No! That Constitution in America is toilet paper in America at the moment. That's why we want to be new constitutionalists, new age constitutionalists. We operate without borders in every democracy in the world. There is a very clear truth-telling oath here, a justice principle, a samurai militarism, a feminism, and democratic absolutism, and an economic pragmatism. Just a general all-round serious attempt at capturing the middle ground, but with legit, honest politicians from your area. So here I'm asking for funding, right? Let's just talk about the funding model. So I've got a business. I run my own little business. So I have my own little pipeline of funding. So I can kind of do all this stuff. This is all covered, right? There will be a lot of people like this in the country, surely, who run little mini operations like myself and have the capacity, maybe even got staff to do things. Look, when FDR, I want to compare us to FDR, but let's think about that for a moment, the kind of New Dealer kind of inspiration. A New Dealer is going to hit the deck ready to run when we get into power. When you win an election, you're already a great communicator. You've already got ideas in your head. You've already got goals. Open source politics, right, could really take shape as a new progressive movement globally. I think there is a desperate vacuum for this. I think there is a desperate vacuum. What I would recommend is that you adopt the same funding model as me, where you make your exclusive source of revenue your local voters and supporters, maybe supporters from the broader internet all over the world, in the same kind of business model as a lot of the sort of liberal woke, what would you say, commentariat are with their various platforms. Get on and make your own money, and don't be beholden to any other party. Never join a party, swear off all the parties, and just work with the people. The people have such desperate need for a politician, and good and honest politician. And if you've got good intent and you're willing to default on matters of extreme popular, why would you want to go up there? Think about the madness of other politics for a moment. The madness of other politics is people coming into politics who want to take money and will take bribes and accept money from all sorts of power, from any power, and then influence politics along the lines of that power. What you need to be prepared to do to be an open source politician, to be a candidate and get a handshake from me, to use all this material and we can all work together, is to say that I want to represent the people only and work for the people only.
and default to the people so that we can maintain stability. When the people want something like, even something like the deregulation of cannabis, or lift the prohibition on cannabis, for God's sake, these would get over the line very easily, democratically. So the business model is as simple as that. Meet that demand in the market, win the elections, unite, put proposals forward, agree on them, just do the whole politics thing. I think that the people doing it at the minute are so bad at it, irredeemably bad, that there is a great vacuum for the competent individual. There's a great vacuum for even the slightly fruitcake person like me, who is prepared to default to moderacy on principles of democracy. And because the win is that you will have a nice, stable, long career. Look at Mr. Corbyn. Again, one of the heroes of this movement would be Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn. Why? Because they are absolutely rock solid in their place, in their communities. They cannot be unseated. They cannot be ignored by the most powerful in the world. And at the end of the day, they end up setting the agenda. Even Bernie Sanders has not won to become the president-elect at any point. He's been a president in exile the whole time, but his politics have influenced and they have changed the trajectory. And I think we should jump on that and keep moving and say, what kind of politician are you? And I can say, I'm a Bernie Sanders inspired politician because I only want to take small donations. I'm not taking any corporate donations. I'm having no power from anywhere else. I just want to work with me, the people, and do proper politics the way it's meant to be done. Because why? Because it's a cool job. Because it's fun. You get to make change. And with my system, even if you screw up, there's an exit strategy. Your name and your reputation are protected. Your family will be protected with Epoch Nova as well. We say, like, no, I want this privacy deal too. So there's a lot going on here with these ideas. There's definitely a vacuum in politics. All you got to do is reach out to me and say, I want to do this, I'll do this, I want to run in my area. I'm running for Edinburgh West, possibly Edinburgh North, Leith, Leith North, Edinburgh. I have not decided yet. Depends on how a lot of things work out over the next few years. But I will be running as MSP and then MP after that, and then just continually running until I win a seat in an annoying way. And what you do, you just decide now, dear listener, that I am now a politician. Maybe at the end of this long, rambling, crazy, barely edited properly piece of slideshow, you'll think, I could do this better than that chump for a start. It isn't that difficult, I promise. And I will help you. You will not be alone. You will be alone in a way of being independent, but effectively, that's what I mean. Let's give independents that little bit of help that they need to be superior to these awful party politicians now, who will just follow the party on everything, follow the man on everything, follow the money, follow the corporation. So we could be in a position to influence change, hopefully get good, solid jobs, long-term, lasting, stable jobs in politics, representing the people, doing something good and meaningful and very, very stimulating. This is what I want now for my life. So I hope people will support me. I'm not desperate for cash right now. I will start saying, oh my God, I'm desperate for cash. I'm going to go bankrupt and let people know because I want to try and stay in politics. But I'll be good for a little while yet. And I've got loads more work to publish on loads of politics and loads of other issues. And it will all generally be available to you to co-opt and adopt into your politics as well through this media platform that I'm putting together myself. Munchurian Candidate, all right? So thanks for following, thanks for listening. And if you do want to sponsor me, please do. That would be great. Yeah. Let's make change in the world. Okay, can I go now? I've had enough. I'm ready to sign up. Give me the form. Well, it's called, which one? Epoch Nova? We're going to go, you mean we'll go over Epoch Nova? Yes, I've decided what we'll do. We'll sit down and I will read the oath and I will do the oath. And, I'll see what to make of the whole thing. If you think that this, constitution of yours is the way to go, having your own constitution for your own people, having an agreement between me and my people, that makes me a very strong candidate and politician and positive force in their life. Why would I not want to do that? Well, that's what I think. I think you should ask, what would it be like if everyone at home who isn't wanting to run as a candidate, but just were like asking their politician, why do you think that it's okay at any point to do something that the people don't want because the party wants it? What on earth are you? Who are you being whipped by? Whipping? Whipping is not a thing in the new age. There's no whipping ever. I mean, it's just absurd. Who are they whipping? Listen, the politicians are meant to do what the people want, not what the donors of the party want. That's why you have whips. There are no whips. The only whip I have is the people. That's what we'll have, man. The people. My people, your people, all the people, everywhere, all the time. Jolly good. Thanks for listening. Take care now. Bye-bye.